This is what I learned about networking, going to New York City tech and business events every night for 3 years. Normally, I talk about digital marketing and SEO. This isn't about how to do SEO. It's what I learned when I was going to tech events trying to sell SEO. So if you have a brand that you want others to care about, or you're trying to make new friends, you're going to events, you want to expand your network, you want more people to know you to expand your surface area for luck, everything I'm about to share with you will apply heavily. This is an article that I wrote June 18th, 2023. Let's go. Introduction. I've met billionaires in Prague, artists in Rome, tech meetup leaders in Bulgaria, the list goes on. That's all true. The location may change, but these lessons do not. From May 2014 to May 2017, I went to New York City technology and business events every night. At first, I wanted to learn from people so I could figure out what to do with my life. But then when I knew, I wanted to sell the services that I was learning about. And then when I realized direct selling didn't work, I went back to wanting to learn because I found being curious about others' experiences was the best way to sell my own. So I tried going to these events, bouncing around, saying, hey, I do SEO, hey, I do SEO, hey, I do SEO. And that was a horrible way to sell. I didn't want to listen to other people. I just wanted to talk about myself. And when I figured out that this didn't work, I discovered the best way to sell was actually to listen to other people and create top-of-mind awareness for myself and my brand. I published the original version of this article May 16th, 2017. So I said I published this article that I'm reading right now. I published it in 2023. And this is an updated version of an article that I wrote originally in 2017 called Things I've Learned About Networking to Sell a Service. And I wrote this last summer and I was going to tech events all the time in New York. So I said, now I'm going to NYC tech and business events every night once again. 2014 to 2017 gave me one of the greatest wellsprings of connections that anybody could get. Since I don't spend much time in NYC anymore, I want to properly utilize the city again while I am here. And I'm in Europe now as I'm recording this. So New York City is a great place to meet people. I mean, everywhere is a great place to meet people if you know how to meet people. My number one trick, which I've shared before, whenever I land in a new city, and that's all the time, I message first and second degree connections on LinkedIn. I say, hey, I'm in your city. We know each other or we know some of the same people. It would be cool to get coffee. I don't have as much time for networking now as I used to, but if you're someone who has time for networking, this is a great trick. And if you are doing networking or if you like to do networking, the lessons I'm about to share, they're going to be great, I promise. So I wrote, even though these events are in NYC, these lessons apply to people anywhere. New York City is the most diverse city in the world, and on any given day, I'm meeting people from multiple continents. When I travel, which is often, I take these lessons with me. I hope they bring you as much utility as they continue to bring me. Long ago, I used to think that if I could be more of a hard closer like Grant Cardone, I would make more money. Now I prefer to be more like Dale Carnegie. I prefer to have a lot of top-of-mind awareness from relationships. This means when people think of my niche, they think of me. Instead of having to sell people, people come to me and ask. I also have a network of people who can help me with anything. I've learned valuable things I otherwise would not have been privy to from my network. People have trusted me with secrets that have ended up being very lucrative. From a purely social side, my social life brings me great joy and fulfillment. If somebody I meet doesn't make me much money, I still make a new friend, and this makes me happy. So here are the lessons. Now, I'm assuming that if you're reading this, or if you're listening to this, you want something from other people. If you're like most people, what you want is more income. However, if you are looking simply for a more bountiful social life, most of this list still applies. I've personally found that the best way to sell services or recurring high-ticket items is to have people want to be your friends. Here's my lessons on how to do this. Get to networking events early. Early is the best time to make a connection. People are most likely to want somebody to talk to early before whatever the main event is. At the beginning of the event, there's more boredom. You have an easier time creating a relationship with a stranger. Maybe the main event is somebody speaking. People are just mingling around. But if you get there early, there's just not a lot of people for other people to talk to. And people don't want to stand just on their phones. They went to this networking event to meet people. When you get there later, people are in groups. And it's really hard to make a connection when you have to go into a group. And then you have to talk to someone one-on-one in a group, but it's loud all around you. Getting there early There's less background noise. People are more eager to talk to you. They're not tired by meeting tons of other people yet. It really is the best time to get to an event. If you don't even have a lot of time for networking, but you want to do networking, get to events early and then leave when the event starts getting big and crazy. Next one, don't say what you do until the person you're talking to asks. I learned this the hard way. You don't want to give off any hints of selling. Not talking about yourself unless prompted decreases the possibility of setting off red flags. You really want to be genuine in meeting other people and getting to know them. This also increases the likelihood of having an engaging, relationship-strengthening conversation. Continuing off what I just said, make sure to listen to and engage with what the person you've met is saying. This is basic advice, but if you do this, you're less likely to set off these red flags because, again, you're not talking about yourself. So many people just wait for their turn to speak. They pretend to listen, but they have something in their mind that they want to say. I'm pretty good at throwing this thing that I want to say away so I can just listen and move off what the person has just said to me. One of my closest friends, and he's excellent with people, he said this to me about 12 years ago because I said to him, I'm like, how are you so good at meeting people? And he's like, I see conversations like a tree, and it's a tree that is growing. Branches grow, and then you go off a different branch, and that creates a new branch. And I'm excited to grow this tree and see what branches I'm going to go down. And that's what he said to me, and I always liked that. I still remember that 12 years later. Like I said before, don't bounce around talking to many different people trying to meet the most lucrative contact. That was a mistake that I made early on. I would go and meet someone. If they didn't seem like they were relevant to me, I would ditch them immediately. And here is what I learned. I learned that everybody knows somebody, especially if you're networking in the right places. And you might find that the person that you've met doesn't need your services. But then they develop trust with you and you find out that their friend does, or their cousin does, or their sister does. Or someone comes to them in a week or a month, and because you have a good relationship with that person, or you talk to that person for a while, when someone says to them, hey, do you know anybody who does this? They think of you. And that happened to me all the time. It still happens. Even though I don't do networking as much anymore, it still happens. So be okay with spending most of your time talking to the first or second person you meet. And do this even if you're unsure of that person providing you with business. This makes networking more fun and more long-lasting. This is easier than meeting a lot of people. This makes networking less transactional and more win-win. And all of this makes networking more effective. I wrote, create relationships instead of transactions. Strong relationships create top-of-mind awareness within your niche. In my case, when a contact hears a friend complaining, this is what I just said, about needing more visibility for their brand, that contact immediately thinks of recommending me. Oh, I know somebody who's very good at that. I actually just got recommended a super high-level US government person who wants this. And my friend was working with them, and they're like, do you know anyone who is great at upping brand visibility? And my friend was like, oh, you got to talk to Edward. I continue writing, as previously mentioned, immediately trying to sell somebody creates a strong sense of aversion in the other person. People really don't like feeling like they are just an object for money and that all you're trying to do is sell to them. Ooh, I love this trick. This is something that I would do. Introduce contacts to one another within the coming months after meeting them. I wouldn't even call it a trick. It's just something that I genuinely love to do. Try to reward people who know you with somebody who will either provide benefit or be of interest to them. This strengthens your relationships with people and is a good way to strengthen multiple relationships while saving time. I love introducing people who I think will vibe, who I think will get along and become stronger from knowing each other. It brings me joy doing that, but it's also just good for my reputation, and it strengthens my relationship with both of these people. I can't even tell you how many times doing this has gotten me a business deal or some other type of advantage. We're almost at the end now. Don't try to directly meet check signers who need your services. Instead, try to meet people who will both give you referrals and be likely to work with people who need your services. So if you're trying to meet specific people, and like I say, you're better off when you get to an event, go to lots of events. When you get to an event, just talk to the first person, stick with that first person, get there early. But if you're deciding between events to go to, try to go to an event where there will be people who will give you referrals and who will be likely to work with people who need your services. but don't try to directly meet check signers because referrals are less competitive and they convert way better. I mean, think about yourself. If you need something, are you more likely to trust somebody who is trying to sell you on themselves? Or are you more likely to trust what a friend says who actually knows this person? You're going to choose a friend. That's how we're wired as humans. So learn who's actually most likely to give you referrals and then go to the places where these people want to network. Now, this is for people who have more time to network. If you're at a networking event in the evening, go to dinner afterwards with the person you spend most of your time with. This is because doing multiple activities together strengthens connections. So this is something that I discovered myself. I would meet somebody at an event. I'd get there early. I'd spend the event with them. And then afterwards, I'd say, hey, let's go to dinner. And just by moving to different places, that strengthened our relationship and our connection. People were more likely to remember me because of that. Try to have at least 1/9 of the meals you eat out be with somebody else. 1/9, that was a figure that I came up with when I wrote this. The expression never eat alone is a very widely overlooked sales mantra. Eating with other people makes even more utility out of just eating, and it's a great way to strengthen/freshen relationships with old contacts. Oh, I actually wrote why I chose 1/9. It's assuming you're eating out 3 times a day. So then you want to do 1/9 if you are eating out 3 times a day. But honestly, just do this as much as you can. And I also wrote, I said this for people, maybe you're just getting started and you don't have that much money to eat out. And I said, even if you're not making much income, don't hesitate on spending money to eat out with somebody else. As just discussed, the ROI is huge on this activity. Also, and this is something that I had to learn the hard way, a mindset of money as being scarce and precious is likely to result in less income. It's funny how it worked because when I started going out with people to eat and just being willing to eat out, and in New York City, eating out is not the least expensive thing. Eating out is quite expensive in New York City. And this is when I was not making a lot of money. And I just said, F it, I'm going to do this anyway. I believe there would be an ROI on it. But something else happened. When I was spending more money, it became easier to make money because I stopped seeing money as scarce and precious. So as I just said, if you're not making much income, don't hesitate on spending money to eat out with somebody else. Strengthening these connections and getting the top of mind awareness is so good, especially in cities with a lot of people. Then I end this article, and you can read this on my website, edwardsturm.com/articles. It's called What I Learned About Networking Going to NYC Tech and Business Events Every Night for 3 Years. And the last sentence of this article, the ultimate objective from doing all of this is to create an expansive web of solid relationships that will result in a consistent stream of brand awareness and referrals with little further lead generation. So if you want a cheat sheet for networking to bring sales and business, this article is linked to in the description for this episode. Thank you so much for watching if you watched on YouTube, and thank you so much for listening if you listened on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. This is episode 437 of my daily show. I will talk to you again tomorrow. Bye now.